the magic of property tax, and I need magic dust now falling from the big word magic, preferably framed like a crown above my head. This is perfect. The small magic dust of property tax. Recording? Main camera. Today we are on episode. He listens. You just looked that up, didn't you? 253. The world of property tax. Property tax is an elusive little guy that we complain about every 12 months or so, but how do they get to these numbers? How does it get there? There's some scientific rigory going on. Fugazi, Al, it's a fugazi. It's just a whole bunch of nothing coming together to charge you more money. So we don't have the title yet. We'll get to that. But I'm going to be doing a lot of reading today because we can't get any of this stuff wrong. And I can't remember all this, as we all know. So we've broken this up into a few points, but let me just run through it here. Today could be under 10 minutes, Al. Could be under 10 goddamn minutes. Okay, BC assessment determines the value of your property based on valuation day of July 1 every year. So all of a sudden on July 1st, they have your market value. How they come to that, we're going to get to. So if you have the luxury of being a tenant, you don't deal with this. Your landlord has to deal with all this BS. But it's not BS because we have to pay for all the stuff, these wonderful things that are around us, Al. These beautiful provided services. Now, a quote here, each January, BC Assessment mails property assessment notices. The notice contains your assessed value, which is an estimated market value of your property as of July 1st of the previous year. Now, caveat, realtors, this is not a fair market value to the degree you and I may believe or our clients may believe, specifically if we are beyond July 1st of said year. Your job is to come up with a market value by way of comparables, market climate, and. You can't rely on the government to say this is your assessed value, convince your client that that is fact, and then try and sell for that amount specifically the following year. Just so we all know. We all know who these realtors are. There's no good or bad realtors out there. We're all just out there trying to do our things, but some people's opinions on things are a little bit twisted. Specifically in this regard. So, assessed value. How do they get it? This was actually quite enlightening when I looked into this. We've got a list here. So, they claim they're getting your assessed values through building permits. They have access to all the records. You're going to build, you're going to reno. If you're not lying, you're saying, City Hall, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to build. Can I please tell you everything about every square inch of my home? So if you do renos without permits, this updated information is not going to be applicable here, as is obvious. So they're going into City Hall, building permits, land titles offices they're looking in, real estate transactions apparently they're looking into, property owner initiated upgrades, that would be those, or sorry, updates, that would be those renos. 3D modeling of Vancouver's downtown condos to determine views, Al. They're using 3D modeling technology, apparently. Requests sent to property owners. Sir, what do you think your property is worth? Visit to the property. Haven't seen that before. Aerial and street front imagery. Google Street View, thank you very much. Location of the home, view from the home, size of the home, age of the home, garages, carports, decks, pools, comparable sales prices, and other real estate market information. So they're tapping us for information yet again. Quote, our appraisers also consider recent sales of properties with similar characteristics to your property. Now, that's the list. If you try and dispute said market value, which is free to do, and you should all, of course, do it. They're going to send you a list of comps. So I've seen clients that have done this before. Send a list of comps, why they are justifying their number. These may or may not be as apples to apples as you like, but you can dispute. You've got till the end of January to do so, and they will say yay or nay. Pay up. I think I've heard of successful disputes, but I don't know. I've definitely heard of failed disputes. As you can imagine. Now, the magic dust, Al. Property tax rate or mill rate, how do they get it? So, there's a lot more to this than just the city saying, your property's gone up to this, so your taxes are that. There is a few layers here that make it a little bit more complicated than that. There are a few layers here. That's English 12, Al. I got a C+ at Lord Byng Secondary School. Now, here we go. So early spring, the tax authority sets their property tax rates for all 9 property classes in Vancouver. Yes, it's a classist system after all. Google property classes Vancouver, there are 9 different types, residential, industrial, blah, blah, blah. This determines the rate applied to each $1,000 increment of your assessed value. Okay? So another pullout here. Sorry, I'm looking at the screen so much and I can't memorize these things in my old age. Once a budget is passed by your local government, okay, approved by City Hall, City Council, sorry, known revenues are then subtracted. So when I go out and I get a parking ticket, when I go out and I get a goddamn speeding ticket over the bridge, Al, these revenues are minused, which leaves the deficit, we've all heard that word in the current Liberal government environment, to be raised through property taxes. So the difference is what we have to make up, or what they have to make up via our further taxation. This amount is divided by the value of all of the properties in the municipality, which is then multiplied by 1,000, and the figure represented is the tax rate or the mill rate. So that could be a little bit complicated. Let's break it down again. Annual budget approved by City Council. City of Vancouver budget expenses are this astronomical amount, of course subject to oversights and opinions, and I'm not going to get into that, minus other city revenues equals the property tax needed, quote, to raise enough money to pay all debts and obligations that are due that year, okay? Then we take the total taxes required to pay said obligations, divide that by the total by the total assessed value of all homes in said municipality, City of Vancouver, and you will get a dollar rate or a mill rate. That mill rate is then times by every $1,000 increment of your assessed value, okay? If your property was assessed at $10,000, they will take the mill rate, times it by 10 1,000s, and that would be your property tax amount. And that's how they get it, okay? Is that kind of clear? Al, this is the first time you've heard this level of breakdown. Is that clear? Pretty clear, okay. We're doing a pretty good job then. Property taxes, why is this happening? Your tax authority has an annual budget to fund important services used every day by you and me in your community. Each year, new taxes raised must be set before May 15 in order to raise enough revenue for property taxes to cover their annual budget. What exactly do the taxes pay for? Now, so we know, if you go into your property tax document, you will see a variety of governing bodies will say different levies that you're being taxed because of. So each one of these levies has their own mill rate, as you will see highlighted on your property tax statement. Just for the record, and then those are collectively added. For simplicity here, I'm going to give some totals of what the mill rates have looked like over the last 3 years in Vancouver as the total combined number off of your total assessed value. But anyway, what are these paying for? So 50% goes to, roughly 50% of course, schools, hospitals, transit authority, police, fire, emergency rescue, recreation, community centers, libraries, parks, pools, general levy of City of Vancouver. Just a little extra. some bonus money there. Garbage, green bins, sewer, street cleaning, and water, among other things. The other 50% are to provincial agencies, Metro Vancouver, TransLink, BC Assessment, Municipal Finance Authority of BC, Ministry of Finance. So that's roughly where all this tax money is going. It doesn't end there. So for some example totals, 2021, your tax rate or your mill rate was $0.04116. 2022, $0. Actually, taxes went down, Al, if you can believe it, 2022. You would have seen that benefit yourself. $0 and $0.03498 per $1,000 increment of your assessed value. 2023, we hopped way up to $0, $0.05034 per every 1,000. So, you may also be applicable to a thing called land averaging. What is land averaging, you may ask? Land averaging may be used in the city of Vancouver, giving property owners temporary tax relief by phasing in tax increases due to the changes in land values by the BC assessment. I don't really know what that means, because if your assessed value goes up, your mill rate is worked over larger numbers. But anyway, that's apparently a thing, which sounds like a light break, but I'm going to leave it there. The old additional school tax, which came in a few years ago, applied to most, we can assume most means all, high-valued residents in the province. If you are assessed valued, at $3 million or more, you've got an additional school tax that will be levied against you. Portions valued over $3 million are applicable. The rate does not apply to the first $3 million, okay? So you got your regular mill rate, and then portions through the whole thing. Then portions above $3 million, 3 to 4, you've got an additional 0.2%. Above 4, portions are taxed at an additional 0.4%. Hopefully that actually goes to the schools. So that's keeping the schools in the higher tax bracket neighborhoods more well-funded, Al, than the ones in the poorer neighborhoods. There has to be some level of discrimination there in today's current climate, but we're going to let that go. Obviously, it should be let go to bring equality to all, less taxes for all. Now, some additional taxes you also may be applicable to, as you've probably heard, in the real estate realm, which isn't directly applicable, obviously, to your property tax, so kind of not important right now, but your capital gains tax, depending on your level of ownership of the home. There's obviously the capital gains tax exemption, the biggest tax exemption in the country, I may add, which is still in place. The Trudeau government did spend a substantial amount investigating what it would look like to remove that property tax exemption, but they have not done so as of yet. We can only assume it's coming if the government continues strong. Empty homes tax, vacancy tax, speculation tax, all these other taxes, blah, blah, blah. And there are many more, but we're talking about property tax today only. So, in synopsis, what's the word, Al? In conclusion, you can assume that I put your budget will increase every year, or their budget will increase every year. That's the city budget. But of course, we had a cheaper tax rate in 2022, so that got blown out of the water pretty quick. But if your assessed value goes up, you will pay more. If your assessed value stays the same, as obviously every house is going up and down, blah, 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 based on all this information, if you stay the same, your taxes will become lower in theory, and if your assessed value goes down, your taxes will go down, of course, in theory. The last caveat here, Al, what time are we at? Oh, Jesus. The last caveat here, quickly and very clearly highlighted at the beginning of the What is the Property Tax video from the City of Vancouver, the bylaw states that the city cannot collect more property tax than are needed to balance the budget. So that seemed like a very firm disclaimer that, just so you know, we're not ripping you off. But as we know, more property tax than are needed to balance the budget we can manipulate that budget all day long. So, always dispute your property taxes if you can be bothered. Expect a swift reply, probably a no, but it's worth doing because if you can get the information to reinforce your case, why not? A lot of people you hear out there say, my property assessed value went up. This is a good thing. That is simply more value on paper, which is applicable to a higher annual tax burden, always remember. So when's it a good thing? It's a good thing maybe if you're gonna sell a small fraction of the market. I'm not gonna dive into which very specific fraction that is. Look at assessed value as a reference to market value, as we discussed at the start. So to that group of potential buyers, a higher assessed value would be looked at as a value proposition. So if you're selling, a small group will look at that. Year to year, a higher assessed value. If you're not selling, will be a higher tax burden. So in my opinion, that's a negative. And in the more comfortable, the more free-flowing, low interest rate environment, when we would just use our homes as ATMs and pull money out to buy whatever the hell you want because the money's so cheap. In that environment, they're gonna base equity on the home on your tax assessment value and enable you to or to not pull out X amount to do your renos or buy your cars or your boats or your watches or your stock or your crypto or whatever the hell you're buying with the equity in the home, which shouldn't be done either way, but anyway. So to have a higher value at that point, assessed value will be of value to you because you're pulling off of a bigger number here. But that's it. Most people who aren't selling and aren't using their home as an ATM and are trying to pay that mortgage off to have the luxury of not having a monthly payment every month on that home are going to try and keep their equity in the home and not pull it out. So for most people, a higher assessed value is an authentic negative year over year. And with that, 223 is done. 253, Jesus. We'll see what we got in store next week. I don't know. I'll probably decide, I don't know, sometime between now and then. We'll see you later.